Most of the world has been free to come and go as they please to Cuba, but not so for U.S. citizens. Now, with the Obama administration, it is now a little more relaxed, and we can now go as long as we fall under certain exceptions. And it's actually pretty easy once you know how. So let me show you how I did it. Before, when traveling to Cuba, it used to require an official license, but now all you need to do is fill out a disclosure that includes 12 reasons that you can travel to Cuba. Pick one and you're good to go. You can find this disclosure on Aeromexico's website. As a photographer, I chose journalism. No questions were ever asked. I just filled out the disclosure and turned it in with my ticket when boarding the plane. They also state that international medical insurance is required when traveling to Cuba, but no one ever asked me to see it. So another issue is money. U.S. credit cards, not accepted. MasterCard and Visa have announced that they are going to unblock, but as of April 2016, still not done. ATM cards, not accepted. So make sure you take enough cash to last for your entire trip. The US dollar is actually penalized 10%, so if possible, it's best to take euros or the Canadian dollar for exchange. Just keep in mind that a big problem Americans have is they run out of money while in Cuba, and it's impossible to get any more. So just be careful and bring a little bit extra than what you think you'll need. Cuba operates on two different currencies, which can be a little confusing. They have the CUP, which is the local peso, and the CUC, the convertible for tourists. One CUC is equivalent to 26 pesos. So it's a little confusing and a lot of scams are going on. The best way to keep track of that is the CUC, which has monuments on, and the CUP has people on. So if you pay with monuments, make sure you get monuments back. Now another major issue is I'm told that internet and cell phone service is hard to get. I actually found it's almost impossible to get. So plan on being completely cut off from the U.S. There are flights to Havana from the Americas departing from Mexico City, Cancun, Montreal, Toronto, and Panama. I chose Mexico City because it allowed me to travel same day without having to overnight. Here in Mexico City, you are required to go through immigration and collect your bags. If you have your boarding pass on your flight to Cuba, you can head up the escalator to your gate. Otherwise, if you're traveling on a different carrier, then you will need to exit and check in with the continuing airline. After checking in with Aeromexico, I had to go through security again, so make sure you allow at least a 2-hour connection. Once through security, I headed to Aeromexico's customer service booth to purchase my visa. Before, you were required to purchase your visa beforehand, which could be pretty pricey, but now you can purchase the visa right at the airport for approximately $20 USD. It's just a slip of paper and very easy to lose, so just keep track of it. You will need it to exit Cuba. Once in Cuba, you will go through immigration. With the U.S. passport, they will not stamp your passport, they actually stamp your visa. Now you'll need to exchange money, which can be a long line since no one is able to get the Cuban currency before arriving. The best one is upstairs in departures. So for only 20 CUCs, grab a taxi and head to Havana, a 20-minute drive. Of course, you can stay in a 4 or 5-star hotel, such as the Hotel Nacional de Cuba, which is Havana's most famous hotel. But for a more authentic experience, stay in one of their Casa Particulares, a Cuban bed and breakfast. In 1997, the government allowed residents to rent their rooms. You can stay in Havana Vieja, very beautiful but very touristic. or stay in central Havana, a little older and poorer, but here you can mingle and get a taste of the real Havana's atmosphere. And so affordable for as little as 20 CUCs a night. And for a few extra dollars, they will even fix you a real Cuban meal. One thing everyone asks is it safe? Perfectly. There is relatively no crime in Cuba, but just as always when traveling, be aware of your surroundings. No need to rent a car in Cuba. It is very easy to get around with many different options. You have the legal as well as the illegal taxis, horse-drawn carriages, the bicycle taxis. Now these actually are not allowed to carry tourists, but they do anyway. So if cops are around, you might have to get out and walk for a while. Also, the cocoa taxis, and everyone's favorite, the classic taxis, legal as well as non-legal. They even have the hop-on, hop-off double-decker bus for only 10 CUC. But it's a little different from most bus tours. No history or information is given. They just make stops at all of the top attractions. A great way to orient yourself to the city. Well, thanks for joining me on Tips for Americans Traveling to Cuba, and for more must-see destinations, please subscribe.